this is Dazzling One. I am doing a redo because of the poor audio quality as well as the fact I've amassed a lot more knowledge since I was 19. Before I get into it, you can skip past this little introduction if you want. I just want to make a few things clear. If you are someone who's a bit closed-minded, remember this is in the category of pseudoscience or the paranormal. And if you believe that this stuff is unreal and people have experiences are mentally ill, delusional, drug abusers, or simply have low IQs, rather than wasting any more of your precious time, it's probably best you click out. The other thing is if you're someone who believes that aliens are our saviors, then you're probably not going to appreciate this either, because I'm going to look at extraterrestrials from the angle that they are occultic in nature. If you walk into a bookstore, extraterrestrial books are put in the occult section, and I treat it the same way. Also, I will be using the Bible as my foundation and extra biblical text, as well as stories from mythology. A lot of people get uncomfortable when people mix text or they examine multiple sources. And the other thing is, because I'm not the first person to address this, some of what I say has probably been heard before. And it's not that I'm behaving pretentiously, it's just that people have paved the way and I'm thankful for them, because I wouldn't be able to talk about it without their knowledge. And also, I'm going to share my experiences. So without further ado, interdimensional beings. Before we can discuss beings, we must first look at how modern science defines the idea of dimensions. According to the string theory, there are 10. The first being length, the second being cross-sections, the third depth, the fourth time, the fifth future, the sixth plane, and the 7th through 10th deal with the universe. When people report seeing unidentified flying objects, they often say that they tend to dematerialize and then materialize again, or reappear, disappear, defy the laws of physics, make sharp 90-degree turns. And some people might ask, well, where are they going at this moment? It could be they're going between dimensions, and if they are coming from another dimension, or as I would call the spiritual realm, then they are able to defy our natural laws. Also, some people who see unidentified flying objects see metallic ones. Most people refute this as being nothing more than Photoshop or government aircrafts. This leads me into my next section, aliens or extraterrestrials. Extraterrestrial simply means not of this planet. Another human being born on the moon could be an extraterrestrial, but most people stereotypically imagine a gray alien or a little green guy. In 1938, a 62-minute radio drama known as War of the Worlds really popularized the ideal of aliens. Many people who tuned in late thought that the Earth really was under an alien invasion and took their families and hid. Another event in American history that got more people to discuss aliens was Roswell. This occurred on July 8th of 1947. A rancher by the name of Mac Brazel found unidentified metallic debris held together with chunks of tape and paper reflectors in his sheep pastures outside of Roswell, New Mexico. He got in contact with the sheriff, who then got in contact with the nearby Roswell Army Air Force Base. The news came out and said that it was a flying saucer that had crashed. However, it was refuted on July 9th when the Air Force clarified it by saying that it was simply a crashed weather balloon under Project Mogul. The speculation continued because throughout the 1950s, a series of secret dummy drops continued over the Air Force Base in unoccupied fields of New Mexico. These test dummies had latex skin and aluminum bones and resembled that of what most would view as a classical alien. Shortly after, military vehicles would arrive to retrieve these bodies as soon as possible, and this led to many people believing that the United States government was hiding the existence of extraterrestrials, some even going as far to say that they made a secret pact with them because after Roswell, technology rapidly advanced. Another event that got a lot of people, mainly conspiracy theorists, talking was when former President Ronald Reagan addressed the United Nations 42nd General Assembly in a speech. In his speech, he said, "Our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside, universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world." After this speech, people began to think they could potentially be using this idea of aliens to unite us under a one world government, meaning no more countries, just we're all a global government. And since then, people have said that Project Bluebeam could be responsible for a lot of these UFO sightings, as well as faking a false rapture, making it seem as if a cross is in the sky or Jesus' face is being projected. What also is interesting is that when he addressed the United Nations, it was on September 21st of 1987, which September 21st is 2 days before the autumn equinox, where many pagans celebrate a holiday known as Mabon. It's when it goes from being centered on goddesses and spring and summer to being centered on the gods and death. Just strange things in the sky, like the floating city in China a month ago. There was a dark horse seen coming out of the smoke of a volcano that erupted in Mexico. There have been faces and statues seen on Mars and the Moon that were later said to be optical illusions. The announcement of water on Mars has a lot of people thinking there were extraterrestrials. There was a skull-shaped asteroid that passed by the Earth. An alien megastructure was in the news because they said it could potentially be it, or it could be another star with no life on it. Even this past weekend, there were lights that were seen all over Southern California and Mexico, and people said it was extraterrestrials or UFOs. However, the government came out and said that the Navy had been firing Trident missiles. What's interesting about it, the name Trident missiles was the word trident. It's associated with Poseidon or Neptune, the iconography behind it, and it means birth, life, death, mind, body, spirit, past, present, and future. And what couldn't get any stranger was that a California woman found what she believed to be an alien body in her backyard, but many skeptics came out and said that it was nothing more than a dead deer fetus. Either way, people continue to this day to look for the existence of extraterrestrials, some skeptics, some believers. Alien races. I will go over the most commonly known alien races, and the first is the Greys. Usually these beings are said to be between 3 to 7 feet, have spindly bodies, 6 fingers, large black eyes, small mouths, tiny noses, and are devoid of emotions. Some believe that these beings are human, but they're highly evolved humans from the future who are time travelers, and they're often said to be from Zeta Reptuli. The next group of aliens are the reptilians, aka the Draconian race. They're said to resemble large reptiles and have the ability to shapeshift, which shapeshifting, common word, is known as therianthropy, just a fun fact, and I did a video on it if you're interested in that subject alone. Often they're depicted in popular fiction as being politicians who unzip their skin and then they are reptilians underneath. If you scour YouTube, you will see tons of videos of people who have claimed to have caught shapeshifters in the act as they're sitting on TV. Their pupils become oblong slits like reptiles, and they draw back their teeth and they're canonical in shape. Oftentimes, the pixelation will make it seem as if they have scales. Some say it's just poor quality, while others say that this is proof that they are among us. And they are said to come from the Draco star system. The next group of aliens are the Pleiadians, or Nordics. They're said to resemble attractive Caucasian people, generally blonde hair, blue-eyed, sometimes brunettes. Be benevolent, and Hitler and the Nazis had an obsession with the Aryan race, and some believe this has to do with the Pleiadians, while others think it was the drugs and it was causing them to hallucinate, and others say this is occultic in nature. What is interesting is the Nazis believe that certain relics would give them occult power, and they actually went on pilgrimages. They even were fascinated with Tibet, and they were interested in the crystal skull. In my art history course I'm taking this semester, we discussed how many museums would have to hide artwork that they had collected from ancient Greece and other parts of Europe, so the Nazis didn't take it since they believed they could get power from these objects, as well as Operation High Jump is another conspiracy theory that you could look into concerning the Nazis. Many people believe that after the war, Hitler and the Nazis went underground into Hollow Earth. They had this belief that the giants lived within the earth, and there was even the real society. Many of the ancients would have called this Hollow Earth Agartha. Also, there are domes, deep underground military bases. There are these underground bases. Some people think they're being used to house the elite if something bad happens. Others think that sick experiments go on down there. Also, there's Area 51, another base that is in Dulce, New Mexico. Many think that they're hiding testing of aliens down there, where they say that on the lowest level, I believe Nightmare Hall, aliens and humans are side by side doing sick experiments on one another. The mantis beings are the next group. They look like giant praying mantises, similar looking to greys, except they just look like insects. They're said to be friendly and help with procedures. What's interesting is that in the Book of Giants, it says that the fallen angels took their DNA and they mixed it with everything on Earth, including insects. So some believe that maybe these are hybrids of the two, or some people who have been to hell claim that beings that look like giant bugs beat them. Other planets that these extraterrestrials claim to be from are Rahab and Nibiru. Alien abductions are a thing that many people believe to be bizarre in nature, most times seen as science fiction and a mere passing joke, but for those who have actually been abducted or claim to be abducted, it is nothing to joke about. Ufologist Dr. J. Hynek classified 3 types of alien encounters in 1972, and since then, a few other categories have been added on. The first kind is seen as a sighting of UFOs 500 feet or less. The second kind is a sighting of a UFO with associated physical effects that could be heat, electrical interferences. The third kind is the sighting of an animated being, presumably an alien but not specifically defined as such. And since his suggestions, a few more have been made. The fourth kind is a human abduction by an alien. This may also include voluntary experiences. The fifth kind, the voluntary bilateral contact between humans and extraterrestrials. The sixth kind, the death of a human or animal associated with a UFO sighting. That includes cattle mutilations, which fall into this category. And the seventh kind is the creation of a human-alien hybrid, either by sexual reproduction or by artificial scientific methods. And I want to say really quickly, with the cattle mutilations, I read one of L.A. Marzulli's books he did where he interviewed abductees and contactees of extraterrestrials or had any type of encounter. And one of the women he interviewed said that she lived on a ranch and she had this feeling come over her, almost as if a force was being exerted on her and she couldn't move, and as soon as she went outside she saw that one of their cows had been mutilated. Some other things that happened during abductions that abductees claim: paralysis, time lapse, and through hypnotism many times parapsychologists are able to unlock details of the abduction. What's interesting is that the gray aliens are said to only use scientific methods in terms of removing sperm or eggs because they're unable to reproduce, whereas reptilians and Pleiadians sometimes actually get a little action and have sex with the people they abduct. Skeptics of abductees believe that these people are simply crazy, delusional, or believe the government may be behind this and they're tricking these poor people to believe that they're aliens. In reality, it's just government officials finding a way to kidnap people. According to MUFON, or the Mutual UFO Network, abductees report sensitivity with electrical objects like TV and electrical appliances, tend to act funny. They get marks on the body, lost time, humming noises at night, a feeling of being watched, sleepwalking, sinus problems, dreaming about owls, seeing balls of light. They've been paralyzed in bed, have cosmic awareness, and are interested in veganism and ecology, self-esteem issues, and blood on the pillow, and there are many more, and you can look them up on their site. Connecting modern aliens with the occult. One of the most infamous Satanists of all time is Aleister Crowley. In his famous quote, "Today we call them angels and demons, tomorrow we call them something else." Many have used this as a basis to say that demons are simply disguising themselves as aliens of today. In his 1918 drawing of an entity he called Lamb, he believed this drawing could be used to invoke this creature. It looks very similar to a gray alien. What's interesting is that within other forms of mythology, fairies were known to abduct people, and they are also tricksters similar to jinn or genies. Fairies could do anything from stealing brides, caging a sailor's soul, stealing a mother to nurse, or drowning someone. Another interesting factor is the Mothman incidents that occurred in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, from November 15th of 1966 to December 15th of 1967. It also inspired the book Mothman Prophecies. After the Mothman sightings, the Silver Bridge collapsed and he was never seen again. And some people have said that they have seen him, and there are photos of him right before 9/11. Some people believe that they're photoshopped. Either way, many see him as an omen or an alien or a demon or a fallen angel or something altogether different. There was the idea of the star people. There are stories of women seeing a bright star and following it, and levitating into the sky and being mated with by a sky god. After 6 years of age, that child, who was half divine and half human, was taken and raised by the gods. This bears a lot of similarity with Genesis 6:4. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. Also in the Apocrypha, there are books like the Book of Enoch, Jasher, and Jubilees, and they make mention of a similar thing happened when 200 angels, known as the Watchers, were appointed by God to watch over mankind. However, they were tempted when they started to lust for women, and they disobeyed God, and they came down on Mount Hermon made an oath, which you'll see this when you watch a Paramount movie and the stars encircle the top of the mountain. And then after they did this, they came down, they chose a wife, and they had children known as giants or Nephilim. And with this, they taught them a lot of magic, science, astrology, and so forth. I lean on the belief that fallen angels and demons are two separate entities. Many people believe that fallen angels, after the war in heaven, when the devil rebelled against God, he and the two-thirds just simply became ugly demons. I, however, believe that fallen angels are still angels, but the Nephilim are the disembodied spirits after the flood who became known as demons. Either way, both are evil. It's interesting because there seems to be this obsession with sky gods among the ancients. If you look at structures such as the pyramids or ziggurats, they had a fascination with high places, mainly mountains. They believed that this was a meeting place between the gods and them, the sky representing the masculinity of the god, and the earth representing the femininity of the woman. In the Bible, it warned against high places, and many people would partake in something known as hieros gamos. It was practiced by the Canaanites. Sometimes the children of Israel did so as well, and it was common among agricultural societies because they believed that it would bring rain, fertility to the land. And what happened was a man and woman would come together, representing the first deity with his wife. This ritual sometimes included sexual intercourse, but not always. It involved a public procession, an exchange of gifts, the purification of the couple enacted in the ceremony, a wedding feast, the preparation of the marriage chamber, and an act of intercourse, either actual or symbolic. A festival on the following morning often celebrated the blessing brought to the community as a result. But throughout ancient history into the modern occult, occult simply just means secret or esoteric. People have this obsession with the male and female coming together to form the Godhead. When you look at the Masonic square compass, the V shape for the Fifth Age, but also representing the woman's private part, and the pyramid shape representing the man on top and also intercourse, come together to form the G in the middle. And this is where the basis of the yin and yang come in, of the ideal of these opposite opposing forces. Another thing within the occult that really bears a lot of similarity to abductions is the stories of the incubus and succubuses. Many people who suffer from sleep paralysis report having an incubus or succubus attack them at night. They'll wake to something literally raping them or trying to have sex with them, or they will have sexual dreams. Also, this is called spirit spouses or marine spirits, depending on what part of the world you're in. Some people in the occult also use planets for magic, to summon demons, to put hexes on people. Mars and Saturn are seen as death planets. And many people believe in the superstition that planets hold powers for certain things, and if a planet is retrograding, that means that any spell during that time will have the opposite effect or won't work. Zodiac signs were also seen as something introduced by the fallen angels, and often people in the occult call the watchers the old ones or the wise ones. Zodiac signs are used as well in magic, even for hexing people. Ley lines seem to be another area of interest for extraterrestrial occurrences. Many UFOs are seen in the same areas again and again. The belief in ley lines is that there are these invisible veins of the earth, I would say. These are also considered highways for spirits and for witches to travel. Ley lines are also called silver cords. They're composed of electromagnetic energy. An electromagnetic field surrounds the earth, protecting it from solar flares. We as humans have electromagnetic fields around us. Many people in the paranormal community would call that an aura. Whenever someone is being attacked by a spirit, it's said that something is attached to their aura. It's been proven scientifically that different electromagnetic fields from technology can affect someone's brain. Whenever a schizophrenic or someone has a seizure, there's abundance of electricity in the brain. Whenever someone is investigating paranormal activity, they look for electromagnetic fields and energy. There's a process known as dowsing that deals with looking for ley lines. So it's just interesting to draw this connection to it as well, and a place where too many ley lines intersect form a vortice, or what people think of as a portal. Portals can be anywhere. Many people link them to megalithic structures like Stonehenge or sacred places like the pyramids, and also places like water, reflecting pools, and mirrors are said to be places where portals are as well. Some people believe that the succubus Lilith, she could travel through mirrors, and through the mirror led to her cave. Today, with shows like Ancient Aliens, there are ancient astronaut theorists who believe that these megalithic structures and ancient structures built by the ancients were nothing more than evidence of extraterrestrials coexisting with man, and they also believe that they are the missing link to evolution. Either way, there are a lot of similarities between extraterrestrials and what many people think of as demons, fairies, genies, fallen angels, and so forth. The difference is one is claiming to be from another planet and the other is claiming to be from another dimension or realm of existence. So are they benevolent or are they malevolent? Many supporters of extraterrestrials claim that they are just simply trying to improve the world. They claim that figures such as Jesus, Buddha, or Muhammad were simply ascended masters who achieved the highest level of consciousness and are now godlike, and people continue to go through this process of reincarnation until they reach their highest level of consciousness. This has led to the ideal of walk-ins with aliens as well. It comes from an Hinduism concept, and in Tibetan lore, the Lama claims that giants known as guardians once ruled the earth. Because of the giants' bodies being too big, they needed new bodies, so what they did is they took humans as experiments, put man and woman together, and they had them mate to create a conduit so they can incarnate it. Through a process of channeling the spirits and a silver cord, which is just another name for ley lines, these spirits were able to indwell that person and have a new body, which is interesting because this is similar to the Anunnaki stories that humans simply are test subjects. We simply are cattle or pawns to the gods in some of this mythology. The New Age belief just takes from this and says that the person's soul has departed and now there is a new soul, an alien soul that has replaced it. There was even a story of a woman who claimed that she had an alien walk-in occur with her, and she divorced her husband, and her husband thought she was mentally ill and he tried to get her committed. These spirits also can be known as wanderers. They're said to be a soul from another planet, and they've come to save mankind. The host, Stephanie Meyer's book that later became a movie, was kind of based on this concept. Wanderer was trying to take over Melanie's body, however, she was too strong, so in the end, she got a new body of her own. But the other strange thing about it was that these alien beings that were friendly in nature, that inhabited all of these people of Earth to save them because of how reckless they were, and it was an age of peace, they all had these really strange, creepy blue eyes. And that's something I noticed even with the star children, indigo children, rainbow children, and so forth. Many of these kids seem to be born with really light-colored eyes. Some people believe they're alien hybrids. These kids tend to show a lot of intelligence. They're pretty altruistic in nature. But still, with the hybrid angle, some people say that they're here to watch over us, to help save us, to help us progress. There's also this belief that Maitreya, also known as the worldwide teacher, is coming to bring in the age of Aquarius or Golden Age, and it'll be an age of peace, but before that can happen, there must be order out of chaos, and a lot of devastating, cataclysmic events must occur. Some people see this Maitreya figure as the Antichrist. Despite all the friendly things that many people who claim to channel extraterrestrials say, I lean towards the ideal that they are evil, because abducting people against their will, if someone kidnaps someone, we call that a crime. Mutilating cattle, or even sometimes human mutilations, I see that as criminal in nature as well. It doesn't sound amiable, it sounds more sinister. Sleep paralysis is something that ties into extraterrestrials, but also into other interdimensional beings, as well as astral projection. Sleep paralysis is described as a parasomnia clinically. It's a sleep disorder that happens when a person is caught between REM and waking. REM stands for rapid eye movement. This is the deepest level of sleep. During this level, a person's muscles will paralyze themselves through a process known as muscle atonia, so they don't move around and thrash in their sleep in response to their nightmares. REM sleep disorder, when this fails to happen and the person does so anyways, or sleepwalking, is the same concept. Because the person is paralyzed yet they're awake, they are having hypnagogic hallucinations, as it is called clinically, and they see what they believe to be spirits or apparitions. Although that sounds like a pretty sound conclusion, as someone who's experienced it since the age of 12, I can safely say that I do not believe sleep paralysis is simply just merely a sleep disorder or parasomnia. After I visited the Teotihuacan pyramids in Mexico, I noticed that about 6 months later I began having sleep paralysis, and I believe that it's occultic or paranormal in nature. I also believe that the only way to really put an end to it is to pray, and a lot of people disagree with me on this as well. I've never had any alien encounters of my own besides seeing UFOs in the sky, as well as when I was asleep once because I had been looking into extraterrestrials, because I was someone who was pretty against the idea of just labeling extraterrestrials demons. I thought people who did that were pretty ill-informed. I wanted to prove them wrong, and I'm all for if there was intelligent life that wasn't doing anything sinister, that would be great. When you look too deeply into the occult or into aliens, I come to find, this is why I don't do videos on it every week, you attract something to you, and I noticed this happened to me. So as I was looking into it, I began to feel a little strange, but I ignored the feeling. And then as I went to sleep that night, I went through sleep paralysis, and I saw what I believed to be 3 gray-looking aliens, and they simply told me, leave us alone. Sort of if you were looking into a serial killer and they noticed you were looking into them, and they were like, I heard you've been looking for me, then you probably wouldn't want to look any further. So this leads me into the next subject of shadow people. Shadow people are probably one of the most mysterious of interdimensional beings, but they're also some of the most scariest. I get a lot of people who comment and tell me about shadow people tend to be darker than a dark room. They can be seen peripherally out of someone's field of vision. Sometimes we think we see a shadow dart peripherally, and then we look and there's nothing behind us. They also can be very tall or very small. They can slip under doors. Usually they stop and just stare at whomever they're preying on. Some people report feeling a lot of fear, while others say they didn't feel much at all. They don't generally talk, and they lean over beds. Usually when sleep paralysis is occurring, and they move through walls, often appear smoke-like, can dematerialize, and they can take the form of an animal. Some theories on shadow people. Well, considering that 95% of our universe is composed of dark matter, however, it's one of the most mysterious things out there. Theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking once said, there could be shadow galaxies, shadow stars, even shadow people. So some people believe that really it's just a shadow universe or an alternate universe bridging into our own. Some people believe the people that see shadow people simply are on drugs, and many people on drugs do see shadow people. But there are some sober people like myself, never have taken drugs a day in my life or had any problems with my mental health, who have seen shadow people. And the people who believe that they're time travelers believe that these people are able to travel time, but they don't realize they're actually in shadow form. Some believe they are aliens, while others believe they are shapeshifters. Hat-Man is another very common entity that is seen by many people. A silhouette of a man with a wide-brimmed hat and a long trench coat. Some of these shadow people are said to have red or yellow eyes. It sounds a lot more terrifying than the other shadow people that I've heard about from people's experiences. When I have seen shadow people, I only saw them hovering above me during sleep paralysis. I've never been walking around and seen a shadow person before. Actually, I take that back. One time when I was sitting down in the kitchen, I was in 7th grade, I looked over and I saw what I believed to be a shadow person leap from outside into the TV. It was really bizarre. And again, I saw the same thing occur in my room after sleep paralysis. I saw a shadow entity leaping out of my house, going outside, almost as if it had been sent. Which leads me into the next theory of shadow people, that they are a powerful thought form. Many people within black magic don't simply use a bunch of incantations and spells. Some of it is on energy. In science, we learn that energy can be neither created or destroyed. These people believe they can manipulate energy, negative and positive energy. They believe if they meditate long enough on their victim, that they can cause a lot of bad things to happen and create what they believe to be an egregore. Well, shadow people, if egregores, would be a collection of negative energy. What I believe is that they are what some call astral vampires that appear at a person's bedside at night, and they drain their energy, what people think of as a psychic attack. Most people who undergo psychic attacks report feeling really fatigued all the time, even though they slept, sick, frustrated, tired, depressed. It's like they're being stalked by a spirit, because they really are. Most people who go through psychic attacks don't even realize it. And the purpose of doing this to their victim is to make them go crazy, become possessed, lose their mind, or kill themselves. The other thing is that the highest peak for sleep paralysis, when people have the most terrifying experiences, is 3 a.m. It's the zenith, or the witching hour of paranormal activity. So the next subject is black-eyed children, and I'm not referring to people with dark-colored eyes. Someone last time I uploaded this video got on me about singling out people with dark-colored eyes, and I simply said, I'm someone with dark-colored eyes. You cannot see the brown within my eyes unless the sun hits them. So unless I want to call myself demonic in nature, I'm not talking about that either. I'm simply talking about a paranormal phenomenon where there is no sclera and it looks like the eyes are hollowed out, similar to a horror movie whenever there's an exorcism or on TV shows like Supernatural. Usually, these entities come in the form of children rather than adults. The images I put up are from Google Images. They claim to have captured this strange sighting. Many people have come forward and said it's nothing more than a mere hoax, like much of the paranormal photos that come out, but either way, it's interesting. And they simply have this phrase that they say, similar to vampires, "let me in." Nobody from what I've read online has ever let these entities in. And if they have, they probably didn't live to tell the tale. The one time I did hear a story was on Coast to Coast AM. A woman had went into the store, left her son in the car, came back, saw a black-eyed child sitting next to him, and she took him out of the car because she was so freaked out. She wouldn't drive it home. The kid was gone later, and then her husband drove it home, got into a car accident, and her son turned up sick. So it seems like they bring nothing but curses into a person's life. So my recommendation, if one of those things ever comes knocking at your door, your car door, do not let it in. Some say they're hybrid children as well. What's interesting is that their eyes are similar to those of gray aliens. Although I've never seen one in person, I did have 4 separate dreams about black-eyed people. Every time I saw it, it appeared in a male form, in an adult male form, to be exact. The first time was when I was 7 years of age. In the dream, I was grocery shopping with my mother, and as we were going through the checkout line, I noticed the bagger was, I'd say, about 30 years of age, and he looked over at me, and everything seemed normal except his sclera was missing, and he grinned wickedly at me. After that, I freaked out, and I tried to tell my mother in the dream, like, "Look, you see him?" And my siblings, and no one else saw but me. Then later, as I was playing in the closet, I saw him again, and I freaked out. That dream had me rattled for a while, but then 10 years later, I was 17 and senior in high school, and I had another dream where I was at a festival with my siblings. We were dancing in the street, and I generally wouldn't dance in the street randomly, but this woman came up to me and said, "Oh, it's so cute that your dad's taking pictures of you," and I looked over like, my dad's not here right now, and then I saw this man. He was different looking than the other man, except the thing that set him apart was he had the missing sclera, and I freaked out, and I immediately told my sister and brother, "Let's get out of here." The next dream I had where I saw this, I was 17 again. This time, I was standing by the sliding glass door of my house, and I saw this guy I believed to be homeless. I felt kind of sorry for him, so I started to open the door. As I did, he looked up at me, and his eyes were missing the sclera, and I ran out of my house in the dream. That bothered me for a while as well. The other dream I had again, I was 17. It's strange all of this happened when I was 17. This dream, I was with a church, and there was this guy in there, and this time he was around my age. The thing that set him apart, once again, was he had no sclera, so immediately I got out of there as fast as possible, and the last time I had a dream with any kind of black-eyed entity was when I was 20, a few months ago. My dad and me had went to some event, and it was like a dance, I would say a formal, almost like a ball. It was weird, and this guy asked me to dance. He seemed normal until I saw he was missing his sclera, and of course I rejected that thing. I'm not dancing with an entity. So I pulled my dad aside and I said, "What is that?" I asked him if he noticed him, and he's like, "Yeah, I see him." "What is he?" And my dad knew, but he wouldn't tell me in the dream, and it kind of makes me a little suspicious of how much my dad knows about the occult, because I've said in the past that I believe my father's family has a lot of links to the occult, just their beliefs on the existence of certain things, and even the family's ties. Either way, I'll never know for certain. This leads me into the next topic of ghost. I don't generally believe in ghosts being the departed spirits of the dead. Many people do. I simply think they are familiar spirits, what the Bible describes as them. In Hebrews 9:27 it says, "And it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this, the judgment." Either way, hauntings are real. Many people have written me about hauntings. I believe they are real. I've never been in a haunted place that I know of, but I do believe that they are real. One of my friends and me were talking about this, and she said the old home she lived in, now she has other relatives that live there, and they report similar activity. Blankets will be pulled off of them. They'll feel things tugging on their feet. Many of them are terrified to sleep within the home. But when she lived there, she said there was an area of the home she refused to look in because she just felt something evil in that corner. And her brother, who would sleepwalk, would tug on her and tell her, "Don't look at them over there. Don't look." And it freaked her out. I believe that whenever bad things happen in an area, this is generally why places where there was slavery, there was maltreatment of Native Americans, where there was prostitution, or where there was rape, or where there was a murder of some sort, or genocide, there seems to be this evil hanging presence. territorial spirits is what I would call them, or strongholds as the Bible mentions. Different spirits just claim territory as their own. It kind of goes back to the concept of the shadow people, that so much energy, negative energy, has now manifested to give them a breeding ground. There are certain places that if you just go there, you feel an abundance of demonic energy. I'm a very spiritually sensitive person, and when I went to Las Vegas, that was the case for me. A lot of people go there and say they have the time of their life. I felt a lot of evil around me. Also, light orbs are something that many people who see ghosts claim to see. They look very similar to UFOs. As I mentioned in the shapeshifter video I did not too long ago, these light orbs, if they're seen by certain people in Mexico, they would identify it as being a witch. And I have a friend who's from a different area of Mexico, and she says that her family also identifies it as a witch. So it's just interesting to see how light orbs have different meanings to different people. Either way, they're tied to something mysterious and oftentimes ominous. Demons. So demons take on various forms. Like I said, I believe that most things that we see are demons or fallen angels, and I believe they're separate. Many people like to use the phrase, be careful who you trust because the devil was an angel. That couldn't be further from the truth. The devil is still an angel. He can still appear beautiful. He can deceive you. And it says so in 2 Corinthians 11:14. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. So many people think when they see these spirits that they are their family members, when in reality it's probably a demon tricking them. Many people believe that when they see aliens or so forth, that it's really an alien and it's probably a demon or a fallen angel. As of now, there are 5 known stages of possession. And often when these beings make contact with you, they are trying to worm their way into your life, and sometimes the end result is possession. And I discussed this with the walk-ins, but now I'm going to look at this from demonology. The first would be a manifestation. This is when someone dabbles in the occult, whether they're playing with a Ouija board, which people would chalk up to being the ideomotor effect. Their anticipation is causing them to move it without their knowledge. It warns in the Bible as well that the lamp of the body is the eye, and whatever we let into our eye, whether we're talking about our mental eye, being our third eye, pineal gland, or we're talking about our visual, what we see with our physical 2 eyes. Also, sometimes it's implicit. You might go over to someone's home, they might be into the occult, they might curse the food. How are you going to know? Or someone gives you a cursed object. Also, be careful who you sleep with, because some people sleep with people with the sole purpose of collecting their energy or putting hexes on people. There are such thing as soul ties that can be formed from sex. This is why people who have sex with each other may take on each other's personality traits. It's a spiritual link. It's not just physical, it's also spiritual in nature. Infestation is when the spirit begins to manifest in that person's life, and sometimes multiple people see this, especially in a haunting. Poltergeist activity occurs. Floorboards are creaking. Hearing voices. They might hear people in the room having a discussion, and it might sound like English, but they can't exactly make out what's going on. They might hear strange noises. Much of this will be chalked up to, by clinical standards, being some kind of parasomnia of sorts. The next stage is obsession or oppression. In the occult, it's called mounting. This is when the demon focuses on a single individual, and they will attempt to get this person to listen. Usually in the occult, they will try to level this out with seances and rituals, and they often describe the sensation as being electrical in force as it nests inside them. I've had moments where I felt electricity shoot through my veins. I've always believed it to be demonic. It's not a neurological disorder, because otherwise I've never had such a thing occur. This will last until the demon can take control of them or it's cast out, and the person will have obsessive thoughts, sometimes even rash, absurd thoughts, really obscene thoughts. And then the next stage is known as possession, or by some writing. This is when the person is possessed and the spirit is taking control of the person. They'll blank out for moments, they won't remember what happened. Other people may witness them behaving strangely, talking in strange voices. I know my mom said when she was a teenager, this guy suddenly just started talking all demonically, and then came back to himself. I've seen people have demons cast out of them in person, so I know this thing is real. The last stage is perfect possession, which is not on this picture. And perfect possession is when the difference between the person and the demon is indistinguishable, and the person is content with the demon inside of them. Usually these are people in high-powered positions, entertainers. They want it to stay in them. Some places on the body that spirits attack. When talking about abductions, I discussed how their marks on the body were a sign of being abducted. Well, many people who come in contact with interdimensional beings claim that they were bitten, scratched, bruised, thrown across the room, levitated. And sometimes these entities do not behave violently. Like I said, they can appear very beautiful, enchanting. People believe they have found a guide or a friend. When I was 10 years of age, I began having these dreams that there was this person coming to me and talking to me. Today I would know that as a spirit guide. And I told my mother about it. She began praying against it. As soon as she did that, it began behaving very cruel. So I know that with these beings, oftentimes if they feel they have you on a leash, they aren't going to be negative towards you. Sometimes they're just instantly mean, and they will try to intimidate you because they feed off of fear. They feed off of anger. They feed off of hatred. They feed off of a lot of negativity. Another thing people report to me a lot is that they have headaches from demonic oppression. And I believe this goes into the idea of the third eye, the pineal gland. The pineal gland is said to regulate melatonin, which regulates day and night cycles. It is also seen as the third eye. Many people during meditation are affected in this area, as well as if they do drugs like DMT or ayahuasca. I believe that when you have headaches, it could be also another attack from them as well. They can cause infirmity, really. So this leads me lastly into spiritual warfare. In Ephesians 6:10-18, "Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints." Not only did it just say that our wrestle is not against the people we see. Many people like to blame the people around them, but often there are these external forces affecting us on our day-to-day lives. You don't have to believe in them for them to affect you. But also, we don't fight them by natural means, but through faith. And something people have complained about during sleep paralysis is saying they called out to Jesus and nothing happened. Sometimes with faith, it takes time. It's like bravery. It's not the absence of fear. It's continuing to push on even when you are afraid. It's the same thing with faith. I've had moments where I cried out to God. The demons literally mocked me. It was like on the horror movies where they start having a bunch of obscenities thrown in my head and taunting me, what they do to the priest during the exorcism. Faith is something that you have to hold tight to, but also knowing the Word of God, having scriptures, praise, worship, truth, all of these things go into fighting against these evil spirits. And the other scripture I want to read for you is 2 Corinthians 10:4-6. "For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ, and having in a readiness to revenge all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled." This goes back to what I said. Our weapons of our warfare are not carnal. They are not magical objects. They're not relics. They're not amulets. They're not holy water or rosary beads or some kind of crucifix. They're not some prayer shawl or a Bible or praise music. No, I tried to stop the attacks by putting on a prayer shawl. I got choked with that, like I did with the blankets. I tried putting a Bible next to me in bed. See, I'm putting my faith in the objects rather than in God, and that did not work. My faith goes to him, not to the object. Keep in mind that some spirits only go by fasting and prayer in Mark 9:28-29. "And when he was come into the house, his disciples asked him privately, Why could not we cast him out? And he said unto them, This kind can come forth by nothing but prayer and fasting." Literally, these spirits, you have to fast them out of your body. And many people don't like the idea of fasting. In some of the newer versions of the Bible, they've actually removed the scripture. And I believe the reason they're doing so is because many are just saying it's mental illness. The problem is if someone's spiritually oppressed, it's not going to take away the demons by giving them a bunch of antidepressants. To me, it's like, why be a Christian or why identify with any religion if you don't believe in the spiritual? You just think it's all a huge metaphor. In closing, I hope that you enjoyed this video and you learned from it. Thank you for watching. Please share this video, and if it's your first time watching, please subscribe. If you have any questions, prayer requests, or experiences you would like to share, you can do so in the comments section, or if you want to do so privately, you can email me, inbox me on here, Facebook, Twitter. Have a wonderful week, and God bless.